material life, fear of a spiritual personal identity, and the conception of void that arises from frustration of life. Fear from personal identity. It's like new phobia. Okay. To get free from these three stages of material concept of life, one has to take shelter, complete shelter, of the Lord, guided by the bona fide spiritual master, and follow the disciplines and regulative principles of devotional life. The last stage of the devotional life is called bhava, or transcendental love of Godhead. According to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1:4-15-16, the signs of devotional service. Adau Shraddha Tatat Sadhu Sangona Bhajana Kriya Tato Nartavit Swat Tato Nishta Ruchi Tatat Ashta Saktis Tato Bhavas Tata Prama Vyudanchati Shadakanam Ayam Premna Pradurbhave Bhavet Kramam. In the beginning, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. This will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated. In the next stage, one becomes initiated by the elevated spiritual master, and under his instruction, the neophyte devotee begins the process of devotional service. By execution of devotional service under the guidance of a spiritual master, one becomes free from all material attachments, attains steadiness in self-realization, and acquires a taste for caring about the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. This taste later one further forward to attachment to Krishna consciousness, which is mature in bhava, or the preliminary stage of transcendental love of God. Real love for God is called prema, the highest perfectional stage of life. In the prema stage, there is constant engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So, by the slow process of devotional service, under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, one can attain the high stage, being freed from all material attachments, from the fearfulness of one's individual spiritual personality, and from the frustration that results in void philosophy. Then one can ultimately attain to the abode of the Supreme Lord. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gnana Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Namo Bhishtam Swapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadanmayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Gura Yutapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sahajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanditam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshvari Vishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so any questions? So how was the purport, huh? Guys, how did you manage to follow the purport? What was the purport about?
Shraddha Prema.
Shraddha Prema, okay. Before that, what Shraddha and Prema is actually... Okay, then let's go again through it. But I kind of what I did, I just kind of tried to summarize what the purport is saying in some kind of a chronological way, so that we can follow easily. Is that okay? So, luckily, I'm not going to say any of my mental speculation today. So we will actually just speak what pure devotee Srila Prabhupada, which actually just gives the pure essence, the pure spiritual knowledge. So, let me just read the translation again. Being free from attachment, fear and anger, be fully absorbed in me and taking refuge of me, many persons in the past have purified by knowledge of me. And by thus they all attain transcendental love for me. I don't know why I have alarm. Yesterday, I was just actually today I was reading Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 24th chapter, which is talking about Parchetas, the progenitors going to meditate on the lake, and then Shiva actually approached them, and he was actually starting to glorify the Lord. And one thing the Srila Prabhupada in the purport say that we cannot practice spiritual life if we are fearful. Because fearful means that we are on a bodily platform. Fearful means that we are actually identifying with the body and we are scared what will happen to it. But actually, we should be surrendered to the Lord, and actually by the nails, the nails of the lotus feet of the Lord is the one who are purifying the heart of the devotee from ignorance. So we are meditating on the feet, you can meditate on the nails, that is purifying your consciousness. And then we become fearless. Fearless. And from fearlessness comes joy. That's why the devotional service is joyfully performed when we are not fearful. What will happen to us? That doesn't mean that we are not careful. You're not kind of, jumping from the, it's like I was speaking to Maharaj today. It's like it's not that you're like, okay, I'm fearful, I'm fearless, so I'm jumping from the cliff, Krishna will save me. Krishna will be like, it's like your stupidity, I'm not going to save your stupidity. But if, let's say in the case of Prahlad Maharaj, he was forcibly, he said like, look, I cannot go against my father, you are all stronger than me, I just have to, I have to go, I have to jump. But then he relied on the Supreme, and then Supreme saved him. So it doesn't that we are challenging the Supreme by, I'm going to do crazy things and you save me. It's not we are challenging him. It means that we are kind of trying to be intelligent, we get intelligence, we try to protect ourselves, but also we are fearless in the sense that Krishna is going to protect us in the situations that we do not have control. Okay? So that means we have to be smart, not to endanger ourselves. And for other things that, it comes, pray to Krishna. Okay? So there is like one sentence that actually was speaking here. There are 3 stages of material consciousness. 3 stages. And they are mitigated by practice of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. One has to get rid of all 3 stages of material consciousness. Attachment to material life. Fear of spiritual personal identity, which is impersonalism. And the concept of void that arises from frustration in life. What I like about this verse, because Srila Prabhupada explained how one person comes to the point of being voidism and impersonalist and materialist. How he comes to the point. And we know that Shunyavadi, that Srila Prabhupada came to, remove the impersonalism and voidism. So let's go one by one. So first is attachment to material life. That's karmis. Okay? So they say in the verse it to say that they are too materially attached. Okay? And what do they don't have? How do they look at the spiritual life? Now, how the materialists, karmists, how do they look at the material spiritual life? Embarrassed. Okay, something similar. Yeah. What do they? If you come to them, they're fully absorbed in their material life, and you come about spiritual life. What do they say?
Fearful of being exploited?
No, not exactly. Come on.
As in materialists.
Materialist, fully like, he's in job, career, life, wife, children, house, and then you come and speak about spiritual life. What would he say? Huh? I don't care, isn't it? It's like, come on, yeah, like, when you're going to get a job, it's like, when you get a, be a proper life, He's totally absorbed in his life. He doesn't care about spirituality. This is just like, where will I fit a spiritual life in my busy material schedule? Okay? Isn't it? Most of the time when you come, I don't have time for that, Nobody has time for spiritual life, Okay, so the third point. What do they then take shelter of when the things go rough?
Drugs!
Drugs! Yeah, man, drugs and intoxication, isn't it? And so I think it sounds like hippies, right? Sounds like hippies. So what happens when, with drugs and this intoxication, with hallucination, they start to build their own vision of spiritual life. So this is like, yogis and, if you read Livamrita, Srila Prabhupada, how, all these yogi, like all these, San Francisco and New York's, like, all of these, not yogis, sorry, hippies coming to him and it's like, wow, but I understood, I realized I am God. and then it's like, and then he's like, Krishna Prabhupada is just not even answering, and just continues and he's like, okay, I'm not God. It's like, so many like, oh, I saw something, I saw this, I saw that, it's like, oh, I think, I kind of a vision that we are the universe and whatever, it's like, so okay, we have limited senses and then with drugs and mushrooms and all these crazy things, you kind of enhance the senses, but again, you cannot understand. And most of the people, when actually they have far out experience, they went and end up in the madhouse and chakras are fully open and they are fully, they are like energies are now totally kicking them in and they just end up like crazy people. Huh? Yes, full of identity, so. Yeah, happy hippies, not too much. Actually, Srila Prabhupada made them happies from hippies. I have my friend, he was doing, he's a Bhakta, he's a devotee, he has a family now, everything. He was doing mushrooms. And at one point he said, it was interesting, that something took him out from the body. No, he looked up and somebody took the roof off and they were like a big man and say, hey, hello, we are devas. And he was like, oh, they are devas. And then later on he understood they were demigods. He actually saw demigods. Don't try the home, devotees. No. Later he was reading and then it was very interesting. They said like, we are devas, And they were like, oh, what devas, what devas, what are that? So yeah, please don't try it. Don't try it at home. Okay, so these are attached to material life, okay? So we have the second class. Fear of spiritual personal identity. It's like, how are you? I'm nothing. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Personal identity, like ego, fear of personalities. So they are too materially affected. Too materially affected to understand the personal nature of Supreme Absolute Truth. Even today, we were doing a session online with Gaur Krishna Prabhu about improving sadhu sangha, and we came to the sentence, We have to understand Bhagavad Gita as it was directed by the speaker. So we have to understand Bhagavad Gita as Krishna was presenting it. That's the point. And then we had a question, why people have problems with that? Why do they have to give their interpretations of Bhagavad Gita? Isn't it easier actually just to listen to the speaker than giving your own interpretation? What do you think, guys?
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Just
Krishna.
to be able to, repeat what you hear without putting yourself between what you've heard and what you're saying, is not at all an easy process. It requires humility and
It's not an easy
transparency.
process. We will learn how to contemplate constantly, interpret the things, yeah?
Yeah, and also in this sort of modern society, everything's got to be, original and unique and new. Like any sort of art form, it's just got to be breaking the boundaries rather than just like actually a quality. It has to be just new. So in this way, any sort of knowledge we present has to not just be correct. It has to be ours and new and relevant and it's constantly moving forward.
Sounds like you need these new coaching, things, new coaching, this coaching, that coaching, or, just kind of repackaging the same thing, all over again. And one thing that you were also thinking, me and Gaur Krishna Prabhu, that if we don't understand Krishna, who he is, and that he is transcendental, that he doesn't have material features like we, then it's hard to understand how he's speaking from his level. Then we are trying to put this on our level. We are trying to put, and this is what Srila Prabhupada is saying, that they do not understand that Krishna, you cannot imagine that Krishna's body is not material, that is something transcendental, which is actually full of, imperishable, full of knowledge and eternal bliss. They cannot understand it. So that's why in Russia, when they are doing preaching, what they do, they actually give them some experience of subtle experience. Because people don't believe in ghosts. The people don't believe in subtle energies, in auras, not any of this. With yoga, they start to experience bioenergy, nothing of this. So this is actually, if somebody believes in these things, it's already accepting something they don't see. Something above their senses. This is already a big achievement. My father, he's like, no, spirituality doesn't exist. And then he started to Reiki. I was like, wow, that's amazing. You believe in something that you don't see. That's nice. It's the next step. So this is what impersonals. So they see everything. They are so material affected. They just see everything in material aspect. And then the logic from that view, with the puppy brains, Srila Prabhupada say, bodily concept of life, attached to bodily concept of life, and then they are applying this to Krishna. And this happens to us as well. That's why they say we should read Srimad Bhagavatam from the first canto to the last canto, because you are actually understanding Krishna as he is, not as we think he is. Absorbing materialism, impersonalists, to them to understand how the Supreme Person can be a person. They cannot understand it. Because, we are limited in this body, so he cannot have a body. Not even thinking that he can have transcendental body. Body is perishable, full of ignorance and complete miserable. So I don't want to have body, I don't want to have personality. Because body and personality goes together, so I don't want any of that. So when you say that after liberation you have a personality, they are like, no, not again. I want to run from it. Afraid to become personal again, so they naturally prefer all kinds of merging with impersonal void. So for them, the gigantic material manifestation is the Supreme. Consequently, Supreme is impersonal. And they say, we are like a bubbles on the ocean, and when bubbles pop, yeah, too bad, you don't exist anymore. Maybe not individual personality. Conclusion is, this is a kind of fearful stage of life, devoid of perfect knowledge of spiritual existence. It's fearful. It's fearful life. That's why it's really nice to be devotee. Actually, devotees are only happy people, because they're not fearful. People that, when people, this is what they say. We are happy because we are fearless. That's why we are joyful. But material people, when they feel happiness, is when they don't feel fearful. When there is lack of fearfulness, then they are happy. It's just absence of fear, which will come again. And the devotees, it's because we don't have any fear. We are joyful because we fully feel sheltered. We actually literally feel sheltered. And yeah, perfect. So this is the second type. You have the third type. In 5 more minutes. The third type was the conception of void that arises from frustration in life. Cannot understand spiritual existence at all. Why? Because they are embarrassed by so many theories and by contradictory and various types of philosophical speculation, and they become disgusted and angry. Just imagine, it's like when Srila Prabhupada came into the West, he started to speak about this philosophy. People didn't understand most of that what he's saying, but they saw, he's saying something solid. This is not just speculation. This person is living this life, he's actually amazing, all really attractive, and actually it really has sense. And this is what actually, today you have so many mumbo-jumbo spiritualities that you can say, like, spirituality doesn't exist because I didn't come to the right source, then it doesn't exist. So they say spirituality doesn't exist, soul doesn't exist, God doesn't exist. And these believe in everything, being angry at all sorts of spiritual speculation out of helplessness. They say it doesn't exist. And I like this, there is one I don't know, British person who is promoting this, that God doesn't exist, and he has like a banner, in Gita Life banner, like God doesn't exist. What's the banner? Yes, what is it? Yeah, don't worry, God doesn't exist. So all your worries were about, oh my God, does God exist or not? Oh my God, it's not about, paying the bills and getting the job, children are yelling. No, this is totally fine for you. But your biggest concern in life was, does God exist or not? And now somebody says no, oh, thank you. I can now finally peacefully live my life knowing that God doesn't exist. Probably, yeah. So it's like let's emphasize, yeah, it's like that's Praladananda Swami said, like, Maharaj, I don't want to disturb people with books. Oh yes, you're disturbing people with books. They are living their peaceful life full of joy and happiness, and then one devotee comes and says, sorry, can you present you this book? My life is now destroyed. I'm so in anxiety now because you have approached me with a book. No, actually, they're totally fried out anyway. And you're trying to fix them up. So, thank you guys for doing that. So they are foolishly concluding that there is no supreme cause of that everything is ultimately void. Okay? This is disease condition of life. So what is the remedy to this condition of life? All 3 stages. What is the remedy to all these 3 stages? Yeah, exactly. So obvious. All of this. To the person. Get out. To get free from these 3 stages of material. Take some maha as well when you get out. To get free from these 3 stages of material concept of life, one has 3 things. One is, what's the first one? What has to? What about the Lord? Something about the Lord. Take shelter. Take shelter of the Lord. Second, guidance. Spiritual bona fide spiritual master. And third, follow the regs, the principles of devotional life. And then it is written about steps. They say, first, we have to have preliminary desire for self-realization. You know, so we have to desire self-realization. And many devotees, if you ask them, they actually wanted spiritual life in their life. I was strict, but you know, most of the devotees at least, they wanted. And even, I think it's one of the charyas say that actually, that you want spiritual life, you have to be approached by a devotee. You have to actually get a book. You have to actually, something has to come and preach to you that you actually desire. So actually the step before the first step, before Shraddha, is actually Sadhusanga. And then Shraddha, and then again Sadhusanga. Interesting, isn't it? And then Bhajan. And then Sadhusanga. Sadhusanga always. Sadhusanga sandwich. So, and then it is interesting, we say, try to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated, because we want to spiritual life, so we are associating with such a person. Or, you know, elevated, or who are practicing. Then it says that you are, then actually recommended that you get spiritual master, and then you are initiated by the elevated spiritual master, which is interesting, because I think it now is a little different, because they are careful, like who is there initiating. And then under the instruction being the process of devotional service, then Bhajana Kriya. And by executing devotional service under the guidance of spiritual master, one becomes free from all material attachments. And all of these attachments are the things that are disturbing our mind. That's why we cannot chant the holy name purely. And when we understand that we are attached to them, and that we are attached to them, and that we have to let them go, and we have to pray to Krishna, please make me aware what I'm attached to, and please let me go. Let me let it go. We attain steadiness in self-realization, or what's the stage called? Steadiness. Nishta. Nishta in Croatian means nothing. Nishta. Nishta. And now you become void. Oh, wait a second. Wrong process. Go back. So then acquiring the test for hearing about absolute personality of Godhead, which is interesting. In this, after Nishta, we actually acquired the taste, Sri Krishna, and before that we are you know, they make us come to the Bhagavad Gita class and Srimad Bhagavatam class. So yeah. And further attachment to Krishna consciousness, it is mature in the bhava, preliminary stage of transcendental love. And in the prema stage, there is constant engagement. Interesting. Constant engagement in transcendental loving service to the Lord. So difference between us now and us in prema, we in prema would be constantly engaged every millisecond in the transcendental loving service to the Lord. We will totally be out of our minds. You know, this is difference between us. So then you can compare it and see, like, oh, I have a lot gap to fill in. Yeah. Yeah, please go. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. And then the last words. It is interesting, Srila Prabhupada say, by the slow process of devotional service. Interesting. Always he says like really easy process, you know, really easy, fast process. Now he said by the slow process of devotional service. I don't know if because you do it slowly or. But I guess it's patience. That's why they say, like, what is the nectar of distraction, the third verse? No, the second one. No, that's the third one, about utsaha, nishchaya. Yeah. So, enthusiasm, determination or confidence, and patience. Patience. You know, patience that we deserve to get the mercy. And hope that we will get the mercy. Krishna, I know you will give it to me. I mean, I hope so. I hope so. Under the guidance of bona fide spiritual master, one can attain the highest stage, being free from all material attachments. So, no material attachments, free from fearfulness. Joy comes. And one individual spiritual personality, of one's individual spiritual personalities. And from frustration of results of void philosophy, so we understand finally some spiritual path that has sense. You know, then one can ultimately attain the abode of Supreme Lord. So this is it. There are 3 stages of material consciousness that are mitigated by practice of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So yes, this is it. So, some interesting comments or something that you would like to share, what you got from this kind of a something what you guys got from going through the purport.
I had one question. Thinking of. I used to think of before, and then when you started talking about it, it reminded me again that we have all. You mentioned about these different drugs and mushrooms that people were, taking, and then having their own personal visions of God and things.
I will regret this. Okay.
But then these people came to, these people who were taking LSD and mushrooms came to Krishna consciousness. So, like, are these like natural substances, which we're not at all endorsing because we've got a much better source here? But are these natural substances, like, do they come from Krishna? Has he sort of somehow made these in order to get people at least interested that there's more than just the material platform?
What do you think? I mean, interesting question. What do you think?
I think yes. I know from people who, they go down this route, but then they start to take things, and some people, it doesn't go well for them. Other people, then they start to take stuff, realize there's more to life, and then come to spiritual life.
That's interesting. Wow. Okay, thank you.
I think it's the same as asking the question about, like, similarly, meat eating. Like, people eat meat for most of their life and then they come into Krishna consciousness. In the same way, like, they experience that meat eating and then they then come to terms with, that's an animal and we shouldn't eat it. And actually, like, for example, for me, I was eating meat, and one of the first things that turned me to Krishna consciousness is becoming vegetarian, because we're not actually physically harming by, like, by eating an animal, we're doing so much harm. So in that way, I think similarly, like with drugs, or mushrooms, etc., they're there, and I guess it depends how one sees them. They could be a numbing agent for the material world, or they could be, they could get us into, like, blocking the spirit or experiencing something higher and then thinking, oh, actually, there's something else out there, I guess.
So it's like, I guess it's a rough path through drugs. I mean, don't do this through
but
drugs.
Everything does come from Krishna.
We have intelligence. I guess, but I guess that, some results are, some people do come, so it's interesting. And also, yes, through veganism, through vegetarianism, also people through yoga, they come to experience it. So, yeah, true. Also, we are just trying to now to kind of also put, like, try to help people also through healing. So they experience, our subtle bodies and understand how much we are not what we think we are. So, so trying to help people. But I really like what Revati Nandana in the morning said, like, we don't need all of these things. We were just speaking because Padre and me were speaking, like, we are trying to develop this Sattva project, and then, Revati Nandana comes like, we don't need to speak all of these Ayurvedic and stupid mumbo jumbos. We have to just speak Krishna consciousness, pure Krishna consciousness. And I totally agree. And what we are doing with Sattva, we are just trying to help people to come to the level to the point where they are actually listening to that, and also purifying ourselves, so we can actually be so pure that we can speak freely, and we attract people. Yeah, people want to hear about Krishna. We shouldn't be fearful about that. We shouldn't be fearful. We should be fearless. How actually people want to hear about Krishna. So. Yeah, any other comments? Britain, what did you get from this, maybe, summary?
I think one thing that it kind of triggered that I didn't really think about is, one of the points, we go from, sadhu sangha is always there. And I used to think about this before, but, all the stages leading from Shraddha to Prema, I figure that they're not really steps in a way. They're more of a cycle, and we constantly go around in the cycle. and that's the purification process until we come to bhava. And once we come to bhava, I feel like then we're kind of out of that cycle of purification, and we're almost there. So I used to think about this before, and I just thought it was quite interesting.
Like, okay, I associate now I don't have to associate anymore with the devotees. I'm now in Bhajana Kriya, I don't have to associate with devotees. Sounds like, me trying to spiritualize. Jai. Okay, yes, I saw that. I hope that online that you heard us at some point. Our technical host came and fixed it, so I hope that you also get some nourishment, Krishna conscious nourishment. So please, thank you very much. I hope